The wind howled over the narrow ridges of Blackthorn Valley, where the trees were twisted like gnarled fingers and the earth smelled of ash and forgotten sorrow. Most people avoided the valley after dusk, not because of stories, though there were many, but because of what they felt when they stood too long beneath the bare branches, a creeping presence, a shiver that ran not across skin, but through the soul. But 17-year-old Ezra Dales didn't believe in old village tales. He believed in medicine, in science, and in things that could be touched, measured, and proven. Faith, to him, was a candle in a hurricane. Still, on that night, Ezra ran, breathless, through the mist toward the abandoned church in the valley's heart. Not for adventure, not for rebellion, but for his little sister, Mira. She had vanished. No trace. No sound. One moment she was in her bed, humming verses from the Quran their late mother had once whispered to her. The next moment, her window was wide open and her bed was cold. Ezra's boots sank into mud as he reached the ruins of St. Helena's Church, a place where prayers once echoed, now reduced to skeleton walls and an eerie silence. The villagers said no bird flew over it, no dog would bark near it, and if you listened too long, you'd hear your own voice call from the dark. Ezra didn't care. "Mira," he shouted, his voice cracking through the thick night. "Where are you?" He stepped inside. Instantly, the temperature dropped. His breath curled in white wisps. The darkness within seemed unnatural, thicker than shadow. A coldness not of this world clung to his skin. A faint whisper brushed against his ear. "Return to the Lord who fashioned you." He spun around. No one. His flashlight flickered, then died. In the pitch black, panic surged. He fumbled in his backpack for matches. His hand touched something strange, soft like velvet, but cold as death. He yanked his hand back, and suddenly, a soft glowing light began to spread before him. A single feather, radiant, gold, warm, floated down from above. Then he saw her. Mira. She stood at the altar, eyes closed, whispering verses their mother had taught her. Verses from Surah Al-Imran, about Maryam, Mary, and the miraculous birth of Isa, Jesus, about angels guarding and comforting the faithful. But she was not alone. A figure stood behind her, cloaked in black. No face, just a veil of darkness deeper than night. It was not human. It spoke in a voice like dry leaves scraping stone. She prays to the unseen. She clings to light. And light does not belong here. Ezra's knees buckled. "You can't have her," he whispered. The figure turned, and everything turned cold. Suddenly, Myra's voice rose, reciting, "Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs." Surah Al-Imran 3:173. The wind tore through the walls. The figure screamed, not loud, but with such intensity that the earth trembled. And from above, a light burst forth, blinding, divine. Wings spread wide. A figure not of this earth descended, shielded in brilliance. A malaika, angel. Ezra fell to the ground. The creature of darkness vanished in a hiss, as if swallowed by the verses themselves. Mira opened her eyes, calm, as though she had been untouched. "He tried to scare me," she said softly. "But Mama said, when you remember Allah, no shadow can stay. Ezra broke down and held her. Tears melted fear. His heart, once chained in doubt, cracked open. And in that ruined church, once dead with silence, a warmth began to grow. The stones, though still broken, hummed with something new. Ezra didn't sleep that night. Even after bringing Mira safely home, even after wrapping her in blankets and listening to her soft breath, he couldn't close his eyes. Because the moment he did, he saw it. That veiled figure. That darkness which recoiled not from force but from faith. The kind of faith he had never believed in, until now. He sat by Myra's bed as she slept, the Quran his mother used to read resting on her nightstand. Its cover was worn, edges tattered, but when Mira had opened it earlier, a sweet fragrance had filled the air, as if the pages themselves remembered her mother's voice. Ezra picked it up hesitantly. It fell open to Surah Al-Imran again. His eyes scanned the words. Indeed, those who say, "Our Lord is Allah," and then remain steadfast, no fear will there be concerning them, nor will they grieve. 3:139. No fear. No grief. He chuckled bitterly. Then why am I shaking? Suddenly, a knock at the window. He froze. It was 2:17 a.m. Outside, thick fog pressed against the glass. But the knock came again. Not loud, but deliberate. He stood, heart pounding, pulled the curtain back. No one. Just fog. He stepped out onto the porch. The mist swallowed everything. He couldn't even see the edge of the yard. And then, a shape, barely visible in the haze. A man, cloaked, still, facing him. Ezra's voice cracked. "Who are you?" The man raised his hand, and in it he held something. A photo. Ezra's heart stopped. It was a photo of Mira. But not from tonight. It was a photo from 6 years ago, the day their mother died. A photo no one else had. Not even Ezra remembered this picture being taken. Then the man's voice came. Not from his mouth, but from everywhere. She was chosen. But you were mocked. Ezra backed away. What do you want? The man didn't move. But from behind him, footsteps. Countless. Crawling. Whispering. The house of Imran bore truth. But you abandoned it. So now the shadows seek what truth abandoned. And with that, the man vanished into the fog. Ezra turned and ran inside, slamming the door. He held Mira tightly. That night, he didn't blink. And yet, he dreamed. The dream. He was standing in a desert. No color. Just wind and sand. Before him, 3 figures stood, a woman in white, his mother, a child in gold, Mira, and a cloaked man whose face was fire. The woman turned to him. Her lips moved, but her voice wasn't hers. It was the voice of Surah Al-Imran. And never think of those who are killed in the way of Allah as dead. Rather, they are alive with their Lord, receiving provision. 3:169. Then she pointed to his chest. And on his shirt, words appeared, burned into the fabric. You have been chosen to guard what is not yours. He woke in sweat, and found Mira gone again. The search. But this time, there was no open window. Only a trail of black feathers leading down the hallway. Ezra followed them to the attic. It was a place they never entered. It still held old furniture, broken lamps, and sealed boxes that hadn't been opened since their mother's death. The door creaked open, and there she was, Mira, standing in the middle of the attic, eyes wide open, not blinking. Around her, feathers swirled, some white, some black. And on the walls, in ancient ink, Arabic calligraphy danced in the candlelight. Ayat from Surah Al-Imran. When you said, O Maryam, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you. 342. Ezra's voice trembled. Mira, what are you doing? She didn't answer, but from the shadows behind her, the cloaked figure emerged again, taller, more present. And this time, Ezra could feel it. It wasn't alone. The shadows were multiplying. The girl is a vessel. The boy is a door. One holds remembrance. The other, regret. Ezra stepped forward. Leave her. The figure raised a single blackened hand, and suddenly Ezra couldn't move. He was paralyzed. His mouth dried. His vision darkened. Until a voice called out in the attic. Not Myra's. Not his. But his mother's. Do not lose heart. Do not despair. You are the higher, if you are believers. 3:139. With a shock of light, Mira raised her hands. A single word left her lips. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. The figure screamed again. The attic exploded in light. And when Ezra could move, the shadow was gone. Mira collapsed. But her hand was clutching something. A scroll. Sealed. Ancient. With the name, Imran, engraved on it. Ezra sat in silence. The morning sun pierced through the attic window, filtering across the dust that hung in the air like memories trying to settle. Mira lay beside him, still unconscious but breathing gently, wrapped in his jacket. Her small hands remained clenched tightly around the scroll, its surface aged, edges burned, and the ancient word etched deep into the wax seal, Imran. He stared at it, heart pounding. What was this thing? Why did the shadows want it? And why was Mira, a child, the one chosen to carry it? He reached for it carefully, trying not to disturb her. The moment his fingers touched the scroll surface, a jolt of light ran up his arm. Not pain, not heat, but remembrance. He saw flashes. A woman weeping under a tree. A child wrapped in light. A man praying in the ruins of a temple, surrounded by soldiers. And above them all, a voice, calm, ageless, reciting verses that had once echoed in his mother's home. Indeed, Allah chose Adam and Noah and the family of Abraham and the family of Imran above the worlds. Surah Al-Imran 3:33. Ezra gasped and pulled his hand back. The attic snapped back into view. The scroll pulsed softly in Myra's hand. Just then, footsteps downstairs. Ezra's heart skipped. He wasn't expecting anyone. Grabbing Mira in his arms, he slipped down from the attic and pressed himself against the hallway wall. The front door creaked open. But instead of darkness, a voice rang out. Peace be upon you, Ezra Dales. The time for hiding has ended. A man entered, dressed in simple robes, face weathered but serene, eyes like ancient fire, gentle but eternal. Ezra stepped forward. "Who are you?" The man bowed his head. "I am Yusuf bin Zachariah, from the guardians of the house of Imran." Ezra blinked. "That's not possible. That's from thousands of years ago." Yusuf smiled faintly. "Time bends where truth is kept alive." He looked down at Mira. "She is awakening. And you are the one whose doubt binds the gate." Ezra stepped back. "No, I didn't ask for any of this." Yusuf placed a hand on his shoulder. "No one ever does." The hidden truths. Yusuf sat with Ezra in the living room, the old Quran open between them, its pages softly glowing in the morning light. He explained. Long ago, the scroll Mira now held was entrusted to a pure soul from the lineage of Imran, a line of prayer, sacrifice, and unshakable submission. Maryam carried the light. Isa carried the message. But the scroll was never meant for their time. It was sealed for the age when faith would be weakest, when light would flicker and the night would pretend to be dawn. Ezra listened, disbelieving. "But why us?" Yusuf closed the Quran. "Because your mother was from the blood of the house. She hid it, carried it in secret, and when her soul returned to her Lord, her daughter inherited the remembrance. But you inherited her battle." Ezra lowered his head. "I don't have faith like Mira. I don't even know if I believe." Yusuf said gently. Even Maryam asked, "How can this be?" "Doubt is not the enemy. Despair is." Outside, the sky darkened. Midday, but clouds swirled unnaturally. And then, a terrible sound, not from the air but from the earth. Like a scream buried for centuries, now erupting from the soil. Mira awoke screaming, and the scroll cracked. The night of splitting ground. By evening, the town had changed. Crows gathered in impossible numbers. Streetlights flickered. Dogs howled and hid. The air carried the scent of sulfur. Ezra looked out the window. From the tree line near the valley, a ring of fire had begun to burn in a perfect circle. Yusuf stood beside him. "They are trying to unseal what the scroll holds." Ezra turned. "What is in the scroll?" Yusuf's voice trembled for the first time. "The names of those who still carry light in their blood. If the darkness obtains it, they'll silence every last one." Mira stepped forward, holding the cracked scroll. "They won't. Not if we believe." Ezra looked at his sister, this small child who never stopped whispering verses, never stopped believing their mother still watched over them from paradise, never stopped trusting that Allah would send help when no help seemed near. He knelt beside her. "Teach me what Mama taught you." Mira smiled and opened the Quran. Together, they recited the verses of protection. "Say, O Allah, owner of sovereignty, you honor whom you will and humble whom you will." 3:26. The house began to glow faintly, not visibly, but spiritually. Even Yusuf looked surprised. "They've chosen you," he whispered. Ezra looked out the window. The shadows were advancing now, hundreds, cloaked, whispering, crawling, waiting. He stood. "I'm not running." The final preparation. That night, Mira drew with chalk around the house, the ancient protective ayat that Yusuf taught her, each one tied to the verses of Al Imran. Ezra packed their mother's Quran, a flask of water, and the cracked scroll. Yusuf handed Ezra a ring, gold, simple, with the word yaqeen, certainty, engraved. You will need it when the door opens. Ezra frowned. What door? Yusuf said quietly, the one between this world and what lies beneath the valley. Thunder cracked. The fire ring widened, and the earth began to tremble. The flames ringed the valley like the closing eye of a beast. Thunder tore the heavens open, but no rain fell. Only darkness, living, breathing, crawling in every crevice of the town. And at its heart, in the place where Blackthorn Church once stood, now gaped a chasm, black, wide, and whispering. Ezra stood at its edge. Mira at his side, the cracked scroll cradled in her arms. Behind them, Yusuf tightened the shawl around his shoulders, his face heavy with centuries of remembrance. This is it, he whispered. This is what your mother died protecting. This is the trial Surah Al Imran warned of, when the soul must stand, even if the world falls. Ezra could feel it, the pull. The shadows were calling him by name. But now he did not shake. The descent. Together, the three of them stepped into the valley's mouth, the scroll glowing faintly like a heartbeat. With each step downward, the air grew heavier, not just with smoke but with grief. The walls of the earth wept, moss and bone fused together, whispering old names, names of prophets and martyrs, mothers and children who had once stood against darkness. And then the corridor opened into the hollow. It was a vast underground hall, pillars of obsidian, a ceiling alive with creeping things, and at its center, a throne of ash, where the Veiled One waited. It was taller now, its body made of cloaks and claws, its face still hidden in the same black veil. But its voice echoed like a scream locked in 1,000 years of silence. You brought the scroll. Open it, boy, and kneel. Ezra stepped forward, scroll in hand. You can't have it. The Veiled One rose, its robe spilling across the floor like smoke. Do you know what that scroll holds, boy? It holds the names of the bearers. If I claim it, I will know who still carries light. I will extinguish every spark. Mira stepped beside her brother. Light doesn't die when it's seen. It dies when it's forgotten. Ezra looked down at the scroll. It trembled. Cracks widened. With a deep breath, he whispered, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. The seal broke. Light exploded from the parchment, not burning, but cleansing. Every inch of the hollow glowed as golden words spilled across the air in flowing Arabic script. Ezra read aloud. So Allah gave them the reward of this world and the excellent reward of the hereafter. And Allah loves the doers of good. Surah Al Imran 3:148. The ground quaked. The Veiled One shrieked and lunged, its form unraveling. But Mira stepped in front of her brother and raised her hand. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. 3:173. From the Quran in Ezra's satchel, a radiant Malaika, angel, burst forth, towering, armored in light, wings etched with verses. Its sword was not steel but divine word. You who veil yourself in fear and pride, the angel thundered, you are bound no longer. You are undone by belief. It struck. The veiled one shattered, not into blood or bone, but into ashen names, thousands of names it had stolen. Souls of believers lost to fear were freed into the air. Ezra and Mira collapsed to their knees as the scroll floated upward, dissolving in light. The hollow crumbled, but they did not fall. Yusuf raised his hand, and the earth parted. Light from above broke through. It was dawn. The ascent. When they emerged, the fire ring was gone. The valley, once twisted and dead, bloomed with strange, soft grass. Trees stood upright. The wind no longer moaned, it sang. Ezra held Myra's hand. Something in his chest had changed. Not just belief, but certainty. The kind the world couldn't give him. Mira smiled. You believe now? Ezra nodded. More than anything. They turned to Yusuf, who now stood at the forest's edge, already fading into mist. Where will you go? Ezra asked. Yusuf smiled. To where the next bearer waits. There is always another child of light. Another house of Imran. And then he was gone. The last verse. That night, in their rebuilt home, Mira opened her Quran. Ezra knelt beside her, his own copy in hand. He placed their mother's picture between the pages of Surah Al Imran. Indeed, Allah is with those who are mindful of Him. 3:200. Outside, the wind whispered, but it no longer frightened them. For even in darkness, they now knew. Faith is the light that no shadow can swallow.